can be developed through hard work, good strategies, persistence, dedication, and input from others. Where focus goes, energy flows. So focus your energy on continuous learning and stop wasting time thinking about looking smart. Build resistance, build vulnerability, build courageousness, and face adversity with a smile. Become comfortable with uncomfortable. You know, the only person that you need to prove anything to is you. Imperfect action trumps perfect inaction. Stop wasting time and get on with it. Failure is part of learning, so start learning by taking action.
Good morning, Kristian. Welcome to the hot seat.
Good morning. Bonjour. Bonjour, Madame Simone Lord. Comment ça va? I'm practicing my French in preparation for our European trip in April.
I know the countdown is on. Not that long to go. Very exciting.
No, not long, but lots to do in that time.
Absolutely. I think, we're all getting very excited over the next 2 weeks to be seeing our clients in person again. We're all coming together for our Momentum Weekend, which is going to be absolutely fabulous, in the middle of the Fringe as well. So we're very excited about all of that. Is Adelaide feeling very busy? Is it all starting to hustle over there?
Oh, I mean, we're going to an opening of a Fringe Act tonight. So we've got some, we've been very fortunate. One of our best friends is a PR manager for a lot of the big Fringe shows. So we get to go to a lot of events if we choose to. And tonight's the big one in the Spiegel tent. So yeah, look, the Garden of Unearthly Delights is busting at the seams. So no, we're excited to have all of our Evolve members down here, and some of our CODs for the Momentum Intensive Weekend. And yes, we're organising shows after the event days, and I know you guys are all planning stuff on Sunday. While I'll have my feet up probably by my swimming pool, unwinding after 3 days of total craziness.
Intense.
But yeah, no, really excited. I'm excited to see you deliver, all about personal branding on the Schools Day. So I know you've been working really hard at that. So that's really cool.
Absolutely. Now, I know you are on a tight time frame today, so let's get into today's topic. And I wanted to talk to you about building and maintaining high-performing teams and what that looks like for you and the experience you've had with our clients. My first question for you today, Kristian, is how does communication affect your team's performance?
Well, I mean, look, Simone, effective communication is the cornerstone of a high-performance team, right? It doesn't matter who you speak to. It serves not just as a conduit for information, but as a framework through which team cohesion, trust, and collaboration are built. Now, in the context of small and medium businesses where teams often wear, say, multiple hats, and as well as work very closely, like in our case, clear and consistent communication can significantly amplify both productivity and morale, because it ensures that everyone is aligned with the team's goals, right? And so understanding their roles and responsibility, as well as being made to feel valued, right, as well as heard, are really important. So this in turn fosters what I call a culture of transparency, where feedback is freely exchanged and the innovative ideas are encouraged, which leads to improved problem solving and creativity, which, when you're small and nimble, is really, really important, as well as when you're an elephant. So conversely, poor communication can actually lead to misunderstandings. It can actually reduce morale. It also creates a disconnect between team members and as well as management. But ultimately, it impacts the team's ability to achieve its objectives efficiently. Now, let me give you an example. Right? I think this would probably be relevant. Let's take a boutique marketing company that I did some work for some time ago. They faced challenges with project delays and dissatisfaction, primarily due to miscommunication with the team and with clients. So projects were often handled off without clear instructions, leading to confusion that and the work that did not actually meet the client's expectations, right? So you could picture this, right? So I've come into this organization and that's what I'm kind of dealing with. So recognizing the need for transformation, what we did is we implemented a series of communication-focused strategies, and we do this everywhere. Daily. We actually did daily stand-ups. So we do a daily huddle. A lot of our companies do, but in this example, because they're a very creative group of people, we did a daily stand-up, which is initiated a 15-minute daily stand-up meeting where team members could share their progress, pinpoint any hurdles, as well as realign any priorities. Okay.
Yeah.
We also implemented a stack of project management tools that allowed for the transparent task assignments, progress tracking, and also centralized communication. You probably know who this is, so I'm not saying it, right? And then the regular client check-ins, right? So establishing routine check-ins with clients to ensure that all the ongoing projects were aligned with their expectations and gathering feedback. Now, the result was a notable improvement in project turnaround times and a significant reduction in client complaints. In fact, they now don't get many at all, right? And normally it's because the client's expectation from onset needs to be tweaked. But this transformation highlights how fundamental communication is to the team's performance as well as the client's satisfaction, particularly in a service-oriented business where those expectations can be widely and where they can vary widely. I mean, and that projects are highly collaborative. Okay, so I guess ultimately to wrap that up, hopefully by sharing that case study, it can illustrate the tangible benefits of prioritizing communication within a small to medium business setting, but also offering our listeners a clear example of how improved communication practices can lead to better team performance as well as customer satisfaction.
Yeah. I think one of the really cool things that we do that I haven't really experienced in any of the other companies or organizations I've worked for before is our triage method of communication as well. So, laying out up front the expectation of if I send you an email, then I expect a response within 24 hours, or the Slack channel is, 2 times a day or 3 times a day. If I text you, it's an urgent type thing within an hour. If it's a phone call, it's like an immediate answer. I think just having those clear expectations, especially when you're in a remote workforce, that's really helped me manage the expectations of my peers, of how to respond back to you. So I think that's a really great tool that we use, because it can be quite overwhelming when we have so many tools at our convenience that you get lost within them all as well. So
absolutely,
thank you for those insights. That's really great. My second question for you, Kristian, is should you have a recognition and a reward program in your business? I think this is something we hear a lot about when you're a really big company, right? If you're Telstra or someone like that, they have all these monthly things for their employees. But should everyone be adopting this kind of philosophy?
You're really testing me here. You know these things. Look, a recognition and reward program is essential in any business, whether you're big or small, but it holds particular value for small and medium sized enterprise. So, SMEs here in Australia. Such programs can significantly enhance employee motivation. It does absolutely increase engagement and loyalty, which are crucial for the growth and sustainability of an SME. Now, by acknowledging and rewarding the hard work and achievements of employees, or as we call them, talent, businesses not only boost morale, but also foster a positive workplace culture that values 2 things: contribution and effort. You hear me talk about this a lot. I value productivity. Okay, I don't really care if you come to work and you work one day, but if you can get the productivity and you can get all the outcomes that you would do in 5 days and you can get it done one day, by all means, go hang out, go for a surf, do whatever you want to do. I know that all of our team members. You're a mum of 3, and then you've got Gav, and you've got the dog who loves to rip out the print cartridges and put them through the house.
Let's not talk about that.
Right? So we won't talk about it. Not live anyway. But look, this in turn encourages higher performance levels, right? It reduces stress, it reduces turnover rates, but also attracts talent. The business out there listening, please understand that, right? So recognition and rewards need not always be monetary, right? They can also be in the form of public acknowledgements, professional development opportunities, additional time off, or even other benefits that contribute to an employee's well-being, as well as personal growth. Now, because I'm on this newfound case study scenario, as I was thinking about it, I'm thinking, well, hang on a minute, where do we do this? Now, I helped a tech startup many years ago when I was the entrepreneur in resident at a Sandstone University. And, this company, let's just call it ABC for shits and giggles, right? They experienced rapid growth in the early years, but soon what they did is they faced employee turnover and decreasing engagement, right? As agitation grows, things change. So to address these challenges, we implemented a comprehensive recognition and reward program tailored to their diverse organization. And what do? We basically introduced a platform where employees could publicly acknowledge their peers for assistance and achievements, fostering a culture of appreciation, right? So now keep in mind, we also learned some valuable lessons. Some people don't like to be publicly recognized. So just as a caveat, that's what we learned afterwards. But for the main thing, it worked out really well. So what we also did is we established monthly awards, right? So various categories, including innovation, customer service, and teamwork. And we celebrated with very small ceremonies, right? We did an annual performance of bonuses. We also offered top performers the opportunities for further training and conferences, recognizing their contribution with investments in career growth, right? Really important. So within just 12 months, right, we saw a huge marked improvement in employee satisfaction, which we tracked through the NPS scores, and a significant reduction in turnover. What we really encountered was the way that the company was able to attract new talent, right? And so the program helped in building a positive company image as well as culture, where all the employees felt appreciated, but also motivated to contribute their very best. So, hopefully what this illustrates to our listeners is that implementing an effective recognition and reward program will and can directly impact a business's ability to retain talent and maintain a competitive edge, making it a vital strategy for all SMEs aiming for long-term success. Now, sharing that example and I guess answering your question, this is all about effectively communicating the importance of recognition and rewarding programs, because it's all about how we can adapt to fit into unique environments. And right now we're in a very transitional environment. There's a lot of disruption in the workplace. People are all sticking up their hands, wanting more money, but it's not about more money, right? Like you hit a point where there is no more money to give, right? And so this is how do you retain those people? It's exactly like the ABC tech company. It's put a program in place and reward people with micro recognition and do it more often. Vern Harnish, when I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago, he gave a presentation. I had a chat with him afterwards briefly. He talked about recognition and compensation, and they celebrate. His philosophy, which is a philosophy I subscribe to, is you celebrate every quarter, right?
Yeah.
And why? Because you've got to bring the element of fun in, right? Teams that collaborate achieve more. So there you go. Yeah. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that we probably as employers need to think about a little bit more than just sort of the brief mention of celebrate a win in a meeting or something like that, but true recognition for what you're doing, because as we all know, we spend more time working than we do with our families a lot of the time. So if you don't feel that level of recognition and happiness, then you do start to seek other opportunities and other places to work. So that was great insights. Thank you. All right, one more question. What is your best practice for resolving team conflicts? This is an interesting one because, we're
throw
in this
them off the bridge.
hybrid environment now. It's not always people in the same space. And as we've talked about with communication, we know that some people love using caps in their emails or exclamation marks. There's lots of ways that communication can be misconstrued and cause a conflict. So share with me, Kristian, your thoughts on that.
Just give me a moment. I'm thinking of a couple of cases that I might be able to talk about. Look, the key to resolving conflicts in high-performing teams lies in actually fostering a culture where open communication, mutual respect, and a solution-orientated mindset is paramount. Okay, so really important. You know, you need to. You can't just go, I'm just going to resolve a conflict. You need to preset, your organization's heartbeat. So when you do, you can resolve it quickly, right? So high performing teams are often comprised of individuals with very strong opinions and high expectations, right? They have very high standards of themselves, which can lead to conflict a lot of time, right? So, however, these conflicts, when actually managed constructively, can become catalysts for innovation and improvement. And I always encourage our clients who have a lot of A players, because we've built their businesses to have all these A players, to adopt this philosophy, right? So the first step is early intervention, right? How many times I have had people ring me, particularly my large clients, and they're like, hey, Kristian, this has been brewing for a few days. I'm like, what do you mean it's been brewing for you a few days? What have we talked? Early intervention. Address the conflict as soon as it arises, right?
Yeah.
Okay? Ignoring them will actually lead to an escalation and affect team morale and performance immediately, right? And I've got a couple of ideas in my mind of what I want to share. But what you've got to do is you've got to create a neutral space where all parties can actually share their expectations and their perspectives without the fear of retribution, okay?
Yeah.
You've got to, and this is an area where I've had to spend a lot of time becoming a really good active listener, because what you've got to do is you've got to encourage everyone involved in that conflict to practice active listening. So, I'm a big believer that I can't teach something that I haven't mastered, right? So, you got to be fully concentrating, fully understanding, fully responding, and then fully remembering everything that was said, right? And when you do that, you show people that you really, truly care. Now, I don't struggle with that area because I really care about this stuff. So for me, I'm always listening, and it frightens you guys because you're like, you remember everything. How do you do that when you talk so much? God gave me 2 ears, even though I can't hear in one. I have to hear twice as well in the one that works. But look, the key too, and this is a bit harder. Often the apparent reason for the conflict is not the root cause. So I always suggest to leaders dig a little deeper to understand the underlying issues, right? And don't take it all on face value. Actually, ask better questions and dig deeper. The other big thing is that you've got to encourage all team members to focus on the underlying interests behind their positions, okay? Yeah. Because this will help shift the perspective and can actually help identify any common ground, as well as facilitate any mutual beneficial resolutions with people. Look, you've got to find a way to agree to move forward, right? Like, we talk about failing forward as one of our values. Same thing here with conflict resolution. Once a solution is identified, you've got to get all stakeholders to agree on moving forward and moving forward quickly, because that stops resentment and a fear of loss. And the most important thing, which is that feedback loop, is follow up. Don't just assume because high performers have gone, yeah, we get this, they're accountable. Bullshit. They're the worst, right? You got to go and check up, follow up, make sure that it's all working right, and move forward. So I worked with, I'm just trying to think, I worked with a client who focused on high performance themselves, right? And they faced a significant team conflict when two of their absolute top consultants disagreed over the direction of a major project. Now, I cannot talk about it because it was a government project, so I cannot identify the client.
Yeah.
The conflict actually threatened to derail the entire project's deadline. As well as team cohesion. I actually was brought in as a one-off, and it's turned out that I've stayed with them for a bit, just to do the stakeholder management side. I was recommended by someone at the Executive Connection. They said, look, speak to Kristian. He's generally, ballsy enough that he'll step in the middle of this. So what we actually did is we facilitated independently, right? This was a big deal. This is a very large project. But you can adopt the same philosophy for a very small thing in your organization. So I organised a meeting with the conflicting parties to discuss the issues openly. And me being completely impartial actually really benefited them. By the way, I have an excellent relationship with both of these two consultants now, and they both still work in the firm and are doing amazing, right?
Oh, good.
So that was the outcome. But ensuring that each person had time and space to express their views without any interruption, right? Because I had no idea. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you're in a big position, bring someone in to do this. Otherwise, in your own organization, you can do this if it's small enough. I worked really hard because I listened, and what became very apparent was that the root cause was not actually what they were fighting over, right? And it was due to a lack of clear communication, and also a differing understanding of actually the project's outcome, right? Because they'd both been working with other project managers on a very similar size project. So what we did is I actually brought in the rest of the team when we uncovered this, and I actually got the rest of the team with them. They're in their own independent teams, and you're talking like 25 people on each side of the fence, to actually come up with a joint solution. And so we took this very comprehensive, innovative approach. And then what we did is we put boundaries and goals in place for a new plan. And then we had regular check-ins that I was part of for about 6 weeks. I can't tell you the resounding success of that project. And then they picked up more project work from that. So, a sizable investment for a company to bring an external person in, but it paid, I think about 150x, right, of the investment. Okay. And now, some couple of years later, these people are still all working together and everything is great. So a small investment of listening can make a really significant difference, Simone, to that. So that's essentially, and I'm glad I remembered that example, because that was, I'm still getting it was a very daunting process initially, because this was like, and the risk was genuine, that it was going to derail everything. And, that business, I would dare say, if that had been derailed, probably would have been out of business. And that's how frightening. So, you could be working on your culture, doing everything, but when you have differing opinions, and this is why communication was the first thing at the beginning, you've got to be really committed to that. So, look, hopefully that gave you the answers that you needed today. And
I think it's really important to have that reflection piece on who you are as a leader and how you manage these situations, because you hear also often that someone just gets moved to a different department and they just try and segregate the two people with the conflict, and they don't actually take the time or invest in that moment to try and get through it with the parties together. They just try and separate them even further. So it's great to hear on that collaboration process and how you manage it as a leader to make it come through.
Yeah. I've just realized all the times in my email are wrong. I'm like, someone's here to see me at 12:24 and it's 11:54. But no, I've got to jump because I've got a client meeting for, we're just negotiating a new IT contract for one of my big clients that I chair the board. So I need to sit in on that for the next 30 minutes, and they're here in my boardroom. So I've got to bolt. But I want to thank everybody for listening, and hopefully, I really like the idea of bringing in some more case studies into this, because I think that's going to maybe give our listeners a little bit more context rather than hearing me talk about what we've done. Maybe use examples of clients so they can relate. And I might start thinking about getting some permissions from people so I can actually start
share some more stories. That would be great.
But Simone, thank you. You have a wonderful day. And to all of you out there, just remember, no, that one, live with purpose. I'm trying to get reacquainted with my new office structure. So it's all great.
Thank you for being here on the hot seat. We'll see you next week.
Thanks. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Working with Kristian is a game changer. Hi, I'm Adrian Lee from GrowthLink Coaching and Consulting. I started working with Kristian in August 2020 as his LinkedIn growth consultant. We worked together on his LinkedIn brand for about 12 months before becoming business partners in Growth Outsourced late 2021. Kristian is a hidden genius. He helped me break through a significant financial target by restructuring my growth consulting online business offer. I don't know of any one person who can give you so much focus, clarity, and structure to live your purpose and get shit done. He holds you accountable to your words and gives you the tough love when you need it. I love his no BS approach to business and life. Everyone needs a Kristian Livolsi in their life. Do whatever you have to work with Kristian. This is just the beginning for us, and I am super pumped to continue growing together. Thanks again, Kristian.